Good morning, guys. Welcome to the podcast. Happy New Year. I've got Zach Welchel, founder, CEO of My Budget Coach. I'm really happy to have him on the show to talk about his work. He's a avid proponent of the FIRE movement, and he started the app My Budget Coach, which we'll hear about more. And I'm really happy to have him on. So, Zach, welcome.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, briefly introduce yourself, and I'm really happy to have you on and get into the questions.
Yeah. My name is Zach. I'm from Kentucky. I live in Lexington. I am an entrepreneur. Throughout my history, I actually just left my first ever real-time job. I had a job for 3 years as a consultant, but before that, all I had done was start my own companies. And after that, I had to quit to start my own company again. So it's in my blood. Like I love starting companies. I love taking new ideas from 0 to 1. But yeah, this latest company is My Budget Coach. It's in the budgeting space, helping people be intentional with their money and spend in a way that aligns with their values.
Yeah. Excellent. And what I know, because we had connected through FinCon and, talk about, what made you use this or start this. And we'll talk about how it works and all of that.
Sure. Yeah. So my love, I guess I've always been like money minded. Like I always think about like money and saving. I'm very much like delayed gratification by default. So I'm always wanting to delay for the future, much to my wife's chagrin. She's pulled me more towards the middle. But yeah, budgeting for us really started about 4 years ago when I had just left a job and we had our first kid on the way. The pandemic was hitting and we just didn't have control of our finances. And we found a tool that was like a zero-based budgeting tool. And we started using it together and it was just game changing for us. Not only did it help us feel like we had a plan, but it helped us feel like we had a plan together to get to sit down with your partner and come to a shared understanding of what your values are in the world and how you want to act on those. Like money is a way to do that. So it was just awesome. So we became those types of people that had to tell everybody. We told our friends and family. We taught classes at our church. And what we found was like, people loved it when they succeeded, but most people don't actually succeed in sticking to a budget, right? They need help, they need guidance. And so that's why we created our own company called My Budget Coach. It's all about the budgeting software, but also a connection to a coach, because I think that's what most people need in order to learn how to change their habits.
Oh, interesting. And what for people that are interested, because I know you've got a free trial and they can try it out. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have a free trial for 35 days. So the idea is you go to the website, you pick a coach. One of the cool things that makes us different is we have all these different coaches, right? And so we want you to go and find a coach that resonates with you for whatever reason. It might be their background, it might be their credentials, it might be the hourly rate that they charge. But for whatever reason, find a coach that you like, that you can see yourself working with. And when you sign up for the app, it's not like any normal budgeting app where you're just left to your own devices. You have to figure it out. You actually get to have a conversation with that coach you choose. They walk you through how they like to budget, what categories they like to do. They encourage you to get set up. And then if you choose to stay on after the free trial, it's only like $15 a month or $100 a year. And then you can pay the coach their hourly rate for one-on-one meetings, but you don't really have to do one-on-one meetings to succeed because you get to interact with them digitally and virtually, and you can message them back and forth as well.
Hmm. And how do you solve the cold start problem that they talk about? And especially you see these issues with Airbnb or Uber, or how do you coaches to sign up and all of that?
The cold start problem, as in we have two markets we have to work with, essentially, like the users and coaches. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So for entrepreneurs out there, they always say, don't start a marketplace. Like whatever you don't start a marketplace that has two sides, right? Because it's really hard to succeed in that. And so, yeah, if Airbnb launches to the public, but they don't have places to stay, or if Uber tries to launch, but they don't have drivers, it just doesn't work, right? But you got to keep two sides happy. So we made it a strategic decision. We launched this past year. So we're newer to the space, but we decided we were going to focus on the coaching side first. So we really invested heavily in getting out there, meeting coaches, sharing our value prop, and basically getting people on board with this new way of coaching that allows them to scale themselves digitally and reach a wider audience. And that landed because for coaches, like they struggle to find users, they struggle to find people to connect with, and their current model is so outdated, in my opinion. A coach would create their own website and they make a package. It'd be like a 12-week package for $1,000. And it's hard to convince somebody who's already struggling with money that they need to pay $1,000 for a package, right? Like I like this a la carte method much better, where you can get started for free, pay for a session if you want it, or get some free advice through like the avatar or whatever. So yeah, as far as the cold start problem goes, we've had a lot of success on the coaching side because coaches like this model, right? So we've spent a lot of time going out and getting coaches on board. We have a Discord community of over like 100 coaches at this point. We have about 30 coaches launched on the platform. And then we have a wider community beyond that of all the coaches we're aware of from all these different communities. We're trying to create one home for budget coaches to come together and really be for and by them. So to answer your question, we focused on the coaching side. We're now getting out there and focusing on the user side.
Interesting. Yeah, because I'm looking at your website and I had a friend in college. He's now founder and CEO of Coinbase. But yeah, in his early days, he did what you're doing, but he did it with tutors. And I'm looking at your website and it reminds me of what he was doing. He's got a blog, and he's like connecting tutors with people looking for tutors. And he had what was it called? Location to someone. But
yeah, it's a little bit, yeah, I guess with the tutor model, it's all about that relationship and you have to be like talking with that person. There's a bit of a different take on it for us is you can be learning from that coach even if you're not talking with them one-on-one because they put in a lot of like time and resources to build like a digital version of themselves. So we could talk about this. It's called like the avatar. It's like kind of a choose your own adventure like conversation you can have. So basically yeah, you don't, it can scale their services without them having to meet one-on-one essentially. And so it's from the consumer standpoint, you can look at it like you can go and get a different app and then you can talk to customer support. But with our app, your customer support is replaced by a coach who's like your dedicated support who knows you and understands you. And you can build that relationship from there.
yeah, excellent. And what sort of successes are you seeing? Coaches, how many coaches you signed up, or talk about some of the successes you've seen, how they've grown and scaled? I'm curious.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we just launched this past year. So like FinCon of this past year was like our big, coming out party, welcome to the world. We've since been to like the AFCPE conference. We got a lot of deals in the works with like brands in the space or whatever. But yeah, as far as successes go, I'd say it's been really successful on the coaching side. Coaches, like none of these apps that they're sending people to throughout the years, like none of them pay coaches money, right? We're the first app that actually shares revenue with coaches. On the user side, we're just getting started, right? So like we have some anecdotal success, which is really encouraging. Like the people who are using the app, who have communicated with their coaches, like they say it's life changing. We have a couple that's working together with a coach that like was like not really getting along and finances were like a big part of that. And now that they have that third party and they're working together, like it's been a game changer for them. So we have all these like anecdotal success stories, which is great. Like you want to find that product market fit when you're starting something new. And I think that we're definitely seeing that. It's just a matter of taking it to scale now.
Interesting. Now that people are aware of this, and for the audience that are listening or watching, the links to check out My Budget Coach will be there. You can see how it works. There's also a free trial. I love your idea about the FIRE movement. So talk about your views about FIRE. I'm FIRE movement as well. A lot
Nice.
of people don't like the FIRE movement. Talk about it and the pros and cons of it.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm probably not on the retire early side of it, but I am on the like financial independence, right? Like for me, this is the goal. The goal is to be able to stop working my high paying tech job in order to do something I'm passionate about that I feel like can help people. And so not that we have fired, but like we're on our way there. And like some of the steps that we've taken have enabled us to take these leaps and start a company like this in which we're trying to help people be good with their money. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of, like I said, my natural tendency is like delay gratification, right? So we've lived under our means, my wife and I, we've had a lot of success in like small scale like real estate. Like every time we leave a house, because we have children, we're growing, we have to change houses, but we always keep our previous house. And we do that by always, living under our means, purchasing lower than we can. And at this point, we're cash flowing off of 2 properties in addition to the investments we've saved. So like all of that put together, I have a couple other companies that we've started that are paying kind of dividends at this point. All that put together has gotten to us to a place where we can take the leap, start something like this. If I had stayed in my high paying tech job, we probably could have truly fired in a matter of years. And maybe that was dumb, but I am just so motivated by doing something that I'm passionate about. And especially like I've got little kids now and I want them to see me. I want to model that to them. I want to model to them that you go out in the world, you find something that you're passionate about and you pour yourself into it. And happy to be doing this, but it is that tension between straight going for fire by making the most money possible and saving it, or cutting that a little short to go after something you love.
Yeah. And for the audience listening in tech, it seems like a kind of I think tech and entrepreneurship and social media influencers, they're glorified in today's society. What people listening, they're like, oh, wow, tech, you left your tech to start a company. Why would you do that? And because I was a doctor and I left that to start my company as well. I explained to them it's not as rosy as it seems, or like the grass is not always greener on the other side. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think the grass is not as greener is always true. But yeah, a tech job, like I said, the last 3 years were the first time I've had like a real job, like where I was working for a larger Fortune 500 company as a consultant. I was going in and helping, and it's cool to be able to contribute to these larger tools, but like the red tape was incredible, right? The speed, the slowness, the sluggish speed that we could move at was so slow. And I guess I've just always I love dreaming of something, seeing if it needs to exist in the world, and then building it. And sometimes you fail. I've failed several times trying to do that, but you just can't do that in like a larger scale organization. Everything's just so slow. So yeah, writing code, it's fun, but I don't enjoy being a part of a machine so much as I enjoy dreaming and getting to do all of those things. So to each their own. It's a good life if you want to do that. But again, I'm never in it for the money. I don't want to be rich in the sense of I don't want to live a lavish lifestyle. The only reason I want money is so that I can afford to do things like this. And when you have the chance, you take it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And it's just like I said, the fire movement and FinCon attracts a different type of people, how they view money. And it's very different from just because I'm always around doctors and lawyers and people in the financials. And it's just like this, you see it as wow, there's also a dark side to it as well. Talk about what I love is when what are some of the common struggles like you versus turning in your resignation and starting out? Talk about allaying those fears because a lot of people listening, they've got New Year's resolutions, they can't stand their job, they can't stand their boss, they want more control. How do they address those fears?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say if you're going to start something new, like they always recommend you to moonlight for a while, right? Try it on the side, prove that you have some traction before you quit your job to do it, right? If you jump too early, you could find yourself in a worse position, right? So I would encourage people as much as they can. It's harder once you get, once you have a family, children, like it's harder to put in all those extra hours. Like it's harder for me to crank out the hours that I used to in my early 20s. Like I used to be able to go nonstop. But yeah, I'd say having something else to turn to makes it easier to turn away from something, whether that's through validating your idea or actually getting some revenue going or getting some proof there. I would encourage people to do that. And also, like, I had a great relationship with the company I was working for. Like, I was just able to share with them, hey, I like this place. I like working for you guys. I really enjoyed it here. Thanks for everything. But this is a burning passion I have. And I don't know how to reconcile those two things. And I asked them, could we work together on it? Could I go part-time here? And it just didn't work for their model. I'd say just be honest with people, though, because people understand that. People will say, I get it. I see that you want to do something different. And those people are now cheering for me. So that's really cool.
Yeah. Next, the follow-up question I have for you is what are some of the challenges that you've encountered along the way? I know you've only been a year, but just talk about a little bit those, how you've addressed it and how that fits into your overall path as being a founder.
Yeah, so when you're a founder, you wear all the hats. And so there are some hats that I'm naturally better at and some hats that I'm terrible at. There are some places that I naturally can find a way to succeed and other things I can't. And before you have, and we're bootstrapped, so we don't have funding. Like a lot of companies will get funding and then they'll be able to hire all these roles. We don't. So we have a small team. I've got 3 part-time people that work for me, which has been great to go to these conferences and have a team of 4 to talk to everybody. But yeah, we don't have funding to hire out the development team, the marketing team, all of that. So we've had to be really strategic there. Like on the development side, we actually leaned into an open source kind of solution. So we're like working on code that's already, out there and maintained by others. We're contributing to it as well, which is exciting. So that really helps on the tech side. On the marketing side, that's one of my natural just weaknesses. Like I've always been like a build it guy and they'll come, which is totally not true, right? Like the marketing is almost more important than the product, especially when you're getting started. And that's just a weakness of mine. Throwing everything at the wall, trying to see what sticks, pivoting, trying to work with different brands and partners and affiliates and all that stuff. Like it's just a weakness of mine. So I feel like we've got a great product now. We've got all these great coaches. We've seen anecdotally that it works and that it can really help people. It's just how do you go to market, especially in a market that's pretty established. I've been reaching out to a lot of these like listicles, right? These like best budgeting apps for 2025. And you talk to all the authors who write these things, and a lot of them are freelance authors who just get the list from the editor. They don't really have any sort of like editorial say on what goes in there. And each of these articles is just a copy and paste. It feels like of the previous one. You'll see the same 6, the same 7 on there. So breaking into that kind of club it's hard. It just takes time and dedication and proving to the community that you're here and you're making it better and you're here to serve. And I think we're getting there. It just takes time.
Yeah. Interesting. For the listeners out there, what is one piece of advice you could give for them about entrepreneurship, and how can people find you and reach out to you and check out your product and service?
One piece of advice, something I always come to, this is like how we try to run ourselves, how do we try to run our team, is this idea of like data and intuition, right? So I call it the data intuition loop. And the idea is like your decisions should be driven by data. Like you might think you're brilliant, you might close the door, sit behind a closed door and think that you've come up with the most brilliant ideas and that the world needs to have them. But the truth is like the data will tell you, right? And so I'm always one that wants to move quickly, test things, get the data. And when you don't have data, it's okay to go with your intuition. Just admit that it's intuition, right? Don't claim that you're so good, you're so smart the right way. Just say, hey, I don't have data. This is my intuition. Let's try this. But when you do that, put into place something to gather the data so that you can come back to it eventually. I've just seen that like that mindset of like rapid iteration, letting the data guide you, it's a way to really build something that people want and people need. And it's a way in teams to melt away the pride aspect, right? Because you don't have this one person that just stampedes in and says that what they think is right. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you say or me say, like it's what the data says. So I find that's great for starting out or for working in teams or trying to find product market fit for sure.
Wow.
And as far as people finding me, I'm on X, LinkedIn, all those places. My name is Zach Welchel. If you want to follow the brand, My Budget Coach is also on all the socials, and it's just at My Budget Coach with an HQ on the end.
Yeah, awesome. I really enjoyed talking with you, and I love your work, and I love talking to entrepreneurs, and keep up the great work and to your continued success in 2025.
Thanks. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, man.